Hello, everybody. I'm Mod Wiz, and that's Vernon Ionawa, and we're the two mystics that talk and try to be interesting, and this will be number 4. So, Vernon, you were just telling me about you were not feeling well yesterday.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling well, had to leave work. As I was saying, I went and lay on the ground outside for a good hour and felt a lot better. This morning, I knew I wasn't going to go into work again. I had a night to morning shift. I just wasn't going to do it. I was just pushing it too much. And that's okay. But I was just feeling into what was going on. A fast process, I suppose. That's all I could really couldn't put it down to food or a virus or whatever. I had sweats, and it looks like within about 20 hours it's over.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're talking, earlier on, we're getting ready, it's talking about there seems to be so much going on worldwide or noospherically, collective mind-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's, I sometimes feel like we are a leading edge. We've all gone through our journeys over the last 10, 20, 30 or more years. And I know Kathy from iRise that you'd spoken to was saying that she's doing very well, but she's got all that wisdom behind her for these changes that are happening. How the noosphere is getting reshaped. It's like it's squeezing in and it's out and it's indented and it's through and it's a torus and it's a circle and it's a spiral. It's all the shapes. It's all the archetypes rolled into one.
Yeah, and we're operating somewhere in there, and so we're projected into the dreaming, and if so this again, so the natural state, or the natural state, like you could feel real things. That's part of the dreaming.
Yeah, it's the better we get it rolling naturally, the respect we have for each other. It's like we just caught up briefly online, and it's like, oh, let's do the next installment, video number 4 now, not in 3 days time.
Mm-hmm.
But let's do it now. And it was like within 10 seconds we're getting prepared, and within 5 minutes we've started it.
Yeah.
There's no writing down what are the talking points today, because we're endeavoring to go into our feelings and noospheric diving and whatever's coming. It's like this is we're in that top tier there, and it's not a up and down thing. It's like
right.
we've evolved. There's not a higher than there or anything like that. It's just evolved, and we're starting to see that. But I'm also seeing a big lull at the moment. I know on the One Truth forum I have a thread on the lull, and it's a bit of I'm not sure even if I understand it properly, to be honest. It's like there's a lull. You can feel it in the 4 a.m. narrative that's coming out. There's a bit of an unsure feeling about it. And you're feeling it in the alternative news. There's an unsure feeling. There's a bit of quietness. Instead of looking on your video feed that there's 10 videos or 5 videos that have come out to watch, there's only 1 or none or 2. So there's a bit of a void, a bit of a making room for the next installment in the theatre. And we're at that point. We've had we had the January that was so intense and so fast, and February's been different. But once again, it's 28 days of interesting things again. Oh, we have 29 days in February this year. I keep forgetting. Yeah, I think on the dream spell we just do another day at a time. So we end up having 2 days at a time this year instead of 1. So it's a day at a time. It doesn't function in, except for as it's a day of doing nothing or doing as you wish or just being a day out of time as such. So it's a double day at a time this year for the 29th of February. And I don't know how I'll celebrate that. Are you feeling well-wise?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, it's been so intense that usually when I get those kind of feelings, I go on to Tot, the One Truth, because they have the you know that web bot that reports earthquakes greater than 6.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the things I use. I mean, Todd is very useful for me because when I feel things, and so a lot of times there are certain days it's like, why is my anxiety level so high? And then I'll go on to Tot and see almost like one after the other, you know, like 3 6-point
Yep.
earthquakes like ticked off in the last couple of hours.
Mm-hmm.
So when I kind of got that feeling a day or so ago, I'm expecting earthquakes, and there's no earthquakes, and I'm realizing the earthquakes are happening in the noosphere.
Ah, yes, yes. And that may be where I get that lull feeling, because I'm feeling like something's about to erupt, a volcano, sort of a truth bomb or a reality check or leaving the old narrative behind. But it hasn't happened yet. So there's a lull. It's just a waiting period. And I think roughly about a year ago, there was, on the noospheric diving, it was like, oh, there's multiple lulls. I didn't know that, you know, maybe I hadn't got to that point of being able to feel and comprehend. But the realization was, this is not one lull, it's multiple lulls. And once again, I said, well, what the hell's multiple lulls? I feel that, but I don't know what multiple lulls mean. Is it different aspects and different archetypes of the noosphere creating and burping? I'm working with it, you know. It's like, and the time, you know, this year, it's like these multiple lulls that I'm feeling are like 3. There's 3 going. I can feel in, and I can feel one is the suffering I've talked about, or we've talked about before, how as the suffering gets released and let go, and all the formats and that's one part of a lull. You know, obviously you're going to evolve if you're not suffering. You're going to close things down and open things up again and allow vulnerability and etc. If you're the other one is a landscape, the spiritual landscape. It's like we've got a pretty fucked up garden at times. You know what I mean? There's a few people a bit lazy, not getting out of bed and watering the garden before the sun comes out.
Yeah, but and some of them just walk out in the garden, take a poop, and go back inside.
Yeah, yeah. And the third one is it's just impossible for me to comprehend. It's like God's walking on my back. You know, you see those Jushu, Gashu, they walk on your back, you know.
Vern, I have to share with you, when I went to bed last night, and I'm really connected with wisdom, with Sophia, with the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also talking to my god Tara. You know, there's separate aspects of the same thing. And all of a sudden I turn on my side and I feel like I you know, like just the essence of my guide I want to hold around me. But then rather than hold, I'm like, why don't you just like lay on top of me? And then next thing I know, I felt at least 1 or 2 other dakinis kind of pile up, where they were stacking on top of me, was my experience of like, hey, you can't have them all to yourself. And it was really, but it was so full of, it was just about just love. And again, I mean, there's a sensuality to it, but it's like sensuality, like how sweet a rose smells, or how good, you know, getting into a nice tub feels, or, you know, like that kind of sensuality. But when you said that about piling on, I mean, that's what they did. They piled on me, but it was a pile on of love. And I actually felt them like coming, like almost like I was on the bottom and they just kind of stacked. And I felt like there was originally Tara, because she had gone from me holding her like to being on me, and then I felt like thump thump on top of her. And it was like, and I hear like, you're not getting all this, you know, we're in this one too.
Yeah, there was a wee timestamp for me, like when I felt like it was like God walking on my back. Like I think they hold on to a pole and they walk on your back and they're along your spine sides and things like that. Yeah, the time thing.
Time massage has that in it.
Yes, I think so. I've never had one. It's just like it's a feeling. If I go back 15 years, I sometimes felt like guides or the universe or whatever was was sort of going like, no, you stay here, you're here for a reason, you know, everything like that. It was a bit like that, but in a beautiful way
Mm-hmm.
of you're here and you're also up here. You're able to give yourself a foot massage on your back. So, you know, enjoy. Really hard to get, you know, I try to do my best, as we all do, to get our feelings out into words. And that's been impossible for many, many years. You get a lot of gifted speakers from, you could say, Drunvalo Melchizedek could do it one way. Jose Aguirre could do it through his archetype stuff, and his apprentice or one that took over, Stephanie South, can do it through her books really well. But conveying those feelings into words is part of what's happening now. And you see that if you go to a Trump rally,
Mm-hmm.
well, sorry, I can't, but if I watch them on TV, and that is feelings into words. You can't fake some of the stuff that's happening.
Right.
And you even get a good person up there speaking, and you go, "Yeah, you talked well. You know, this was at a Trump rally. You talked well, but you haven't embraced me." But there's two or three that do get up there, especially some of the women around Trump. And you go, "Oh well, you've got me. Yeah, I'm listening. I'm feeling. I can connect." And then you look at the Democratic debates, and you go through each candidate, and Marilyn Williamson was one that I could connect with, you know. There's another lady there, and there's one that Tulsi Gabbard. You can connect with them because their words are genuine, or their feelings are genuine, and they're getting across.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Marianne Williamson and Tulsi Gabbard are the two that could talk, and you could feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And give them a bit of exposure, get them doing some rallies where they were pumped up instead of put down by their peers, they could start to approach where Trump's at. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all about that now. You know,
Yeah.
we don't do the old way. The old way failed us as humanity. So yeah, that's where it's so beautiful for me, because I can get some of those things. Like God walking on my back is the only feeling I could get for that third aspect of the lull that I feel. I couldn't put words to it until we're talking, and it's like, boom, yeah, that's it. And that's the times we're in. That was just, for me, it was like, wow, I can convey that.
I feel I have the capacity to really transmit that through words, but I don't, because I feel that people who actually can use words for the reader to experience the emotion results in a certain vicarious experience or even voyeurism. And so what I try to do with my words is show that I've clearly had a joyful, wonderful experience. And if you would like to experience, you're gonna have to do the work. So I'm not gonna try and turn it into too much of an experience where you can actually feel what I felt, because then that's a vicarious experience. Go and have that experience yourself. Do it. But you have to do the work. It's not watching YouTube videos. It's like, again, you know, going into a quiet space, whatever, calling in. I mean, all I did was like this, hey, I want to feel like, you know, I want to imagine I'm hugging my guide. All right. And then it felt like almost weird, like, you know, this huge, you know, Mahavidya, you know, even like that. It's just like, no, why don't you just lay on me? It was kind of like, or I don't even know if it was me or her, because all I know, it was just like, this feels inappropriate. Having her just like kind of like lay on me was what felt really good.
Mm.
And then I got that stack. And again, I want to say enough to like people go, I'd like to experience that. Well, you're not going to experience through my words. You're going to experience it through doing the work.
Yeah.
And I really feel that the ones who almost make you feel like you've been through it with their words are allowing people to think they've been through an experience they haven't had yet.
Mm. A few years ago, probably 6 or 7, I was asked to do a talk on mindfulness and how I used it. And there was a lot of mostly professional people there. I don't know, maybe 40 to 50 people, maybe more, can't remember exactly. And while I was setting it up over the previous week to how am I going to convey this to people that have a very strong left-right brain swaying one way as such. And and I got different things that had been proven. There was in some of the schools in America, there was a form of meditation that had been proven. The violence had come down dramatically when it had been implemented in the 80s and 90s. So I was getting things like that together, and then I realized that it wasn't going to make any difference. Like you said, unless you experience it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to make any bloody difference at all.
Yeah.
To some of them, it might be a seed. I'll give it that. It might be a seed like, oh, I remember what Mod was said. I'll go look that up and start a journey or whatever. But otherwise, I needed to provide an experience. So then it was like, well, how am I going to provide an experience? So I got up and I spoke for about 20 minutes on the things I could find online, basically, that had been proven to work scientifically. And then I said, there's nothing going to work here unless you experience. And to experience, you will all have to experiment. So I am going to provide the experiment and the experience for you to have. And then it's yours. And all we're going to do is a combination of two things. And we did Ho'oponopono in a circle as a clearing method. Very simple. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Repeat it.
Mm-hmm. I know it. Yeah.
Life-changing for many people. So people came back to me years later and said that was the defining moment in their life, because we've all got stuff going on in our lives, especially when we go back in time,
Mm-hmm.
when we were awaking or trying to sit or searching. And there was times, well, a lot of those people were like, I did this, this, and this straight afterwards. And I know it had something to do with the experience I had. And there was one or two that went, thank you so much. I know it happened through that experience. Many of them started things as well that are still going today that are so good for so many people. Individually and collectively it was good as well. But it was a huge experience, because once that had been done out loud, so you're clearing with everybody, you're not clearing with yourself, but in reality you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all rocking and rolling, and you got the right hand down, holding the person beside, and the left hand up holding the hand, so there's a stronger current going around. And then it's said out loud, and I explained that it will tail off and it'll go quiet. Keep repeating it in your mind. Keep repeating it, because the mind will take over pretty fast otherwise. And then as soon as the hands drop, disconnect. Go off. We're on a very spacious property. Go off, find your patch by yourself, nobody else, for 10 minutes. And I'll yell out after 10, 11 minutes. And it was bewildering for me watching people coming back. And there was no more said about it for about a week or so. And people started to come in and say, wow, this happened or that happened or something dynamic. Or, yeah, a lot of people, I think it was things that were sitting around there that they needed to do. They knew they needed to do. A fear or an obstacle was stopping them. And the clearing energy of the Ho'oponopono and that experience and experiment lifted it, transmuted it, or whatever. And it was a very quick process for them, and their lives were better, less suffering. So they're able to do more of their mahi, their work, on a beautiful scale. So that was a big thing for me. Like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can also, if you can't, you can also plant seeds that there might be water over the hill or around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, it's interesting because like when you mentioned you were using the phrase God walking on your back, and then here I am, had an experience not even 24 hours ago.
Mm.
And this is what I consider to be like what I'll call shaman talk or mystic talk. Because if we want, again, the word shaman there could be different definitions. To me, shamanism is in a natural way that humans access the source field, so to speak, the noosphere.
Yeah, there was a beautiful post on the White House Q thread I read it this morning, so it was probably on there last night, from a lady. I think it was a lady that was making cakes and everything else for something. And she's not a drinker. She hadn't had a drink for like 15 months or something like that. So she's not a drinker, but she had oh, I want a wine. I need a wine. So she went to the cheapo place and bought a wee bottle of wine and promptly enjoyed it. She flicks on the computer, because she's finished the baking, I'm assuming. Don't know. And it's National Wine Day.
Wow.
And she automatically knows, and this is a part of the noosphere, it's not the noosphere, but it's a part of the noosphere, that it's influenced. So when she writes it in the thread, and I know automatically as I'm reading it what's happening, but there's another person that's in there. They realize the effect that the collective mind can have, whether they read the words it's National Wine Day in America, I'm assuming, or it's or it's out there in the narrative. You know how huge that sway is. It's beautiful to see. It's like having like-minded people around you. I love having like-minded people. Like we can call on each other and connect. With Kathy earlier on from iRise, and I have one or two people as well, a couple of younger people, which makes my heart really, because it lets you know that it carries on. Once we're once we're gone, it's carrying on, because the young ones are in that know thyself place,
And we kind of started off earlier when you were mentioning about, like it's not really a level, but like, like there's certain people that you would say we're placing at a certain, okay, that separation. Well, for me, the when I'm thinking, once again, it's not hierarchical. I'm thinking just like a storm, like a hurricane, because in many ways, a magnetic field is like a hurricane in one place. It just keeps on staying in that one place, and that's what drawing everything in towards the center. And then, of course, that's the centripetal energy, and then you also have a certain centrifugal energy. So you have these kind of, there's a reciprocal and out and a return, with some escaping. The extra escapes because we're tapping into 0 point. So there's more being produced, and that's what you see in the clouds that come out of a hurricane. There's like this, there's stuff that comes out. But it's not part of the coherence. And so for me, those of us who are really kind of benefiting from where we are, we're in the eye of the hurricane where the most coherence is. It's most coherent in the center. The funny thing is, it's the most beautiful and quiet. I mean, it's not dead. It still has movement, but it's peaceful in the eye of a hurricane is relatively peaceful.
Totally.
And that's to me the coherence of being where we're supposed to be. We're in the eye of the hurricane, and then there are people who are part of the blowing winds because they haven't come into coherence with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the separation. Are you in the center where the coherence is, or are you a part of that return and blah, 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 and you're just kind of like taking that ride, as opposed to coming into the center, your own center, and being in that hurricane. You can see the winds blowing all around you. You can even see the people in their homes going, whatever. You had a choice. You could be there or you could be here. But to be here, you have to be here. You can't make it up.
There's the bunker.
The heart, the center. Once again, it's the center. So what looks like this is really like this, and things are spinning around a center.
Well, this morning, I touched on it earlier with you with the rebirthing. So about 12 years ago, I was at a festival and I did a rebirthing with this amazing young fella. And then last year, he came back to the same festival and we did it again. And it was a beautiful experience because I do the Wim Hof method, have done for the last 5 years. So it's and that's been massively beneficial for me. And I remembered, so this morning I'm like, oh well, I'm not well. I'm not fully competent. I'm sort of just sitting there. I know I've got a bit of sweat coming still. Dear Spirit, what's the best thing for me at this moment now? And I clicked off and just waited, and then rebirthing came to me. I was like, oh, cool. So I Googled rebirthing YouTube, and I had to fluff around a wee bit. I couldn't get straight to it. And I got a fellow there and promptly started. An hour and 10 minutes later, it's like, wow. I would suggest, I'm suggested to myself already that I'll do it every day until I can just go to weekly or something like that. But because it takes a bit of time and effort to actually do it. But by geez, you go deep. Have you done rebirthing, Marty?
I had a rebirther one time do some rebirthing with me. Apparently, it was pretty damn effective.
Oh, give it a go. I'll send you the one I did this morning. It was it's only got 5,000 views. It's only been on YouTube a wee while.
To me, it makes sense because again, I'm not going to share anything, but I know a little more about your personal life. And you were rebirthing yourself. To me, again, I totally get why this would be the perfect modality for you to incorporate at this time in your life.
Yeah. Well, I'm just about out of the city. I got as far as the seashore, so I'm moving to the seashore on Monday. Yeah, so I think the last video I was saying that I'm moving out of the city, but just with the young one and everything, it made sense to be close to the negative ions of the sea there, and some nice people around me there. But my own space, and there's a lot of garden that needs a bit of an update. So yeah, perfect for now, and it's just a month by month basis with the rent and that, and a good preparation to step a wee bit further out of the city after that time. Yeah, so yeah, the the rebirthing's happening. And you know me well enough to know that I'm automatically seeing that in myself on a micro level, and I'm going, wow. So that lets me know that clairaudiently that and feeling and the knowing comes in that on a world scale we've got the rebirthing's also happening on the macro scale. So that's the excitement, and I think that's why I put it to you. Hey, should we do a video now? Because even though I'm not that well, it's like I can feel it. I haven't got many talking points, but I can feel it, and I want to play in the energy.
Yeah, well, when you put that out, that I almost would like to do a video now. We normally do them on the weekends. I'm like, why not do it now? What the heck? My energy's in a good place. I just come out of a long conversation with our friend Kathy, and I was in a really good place because it was an energizing exchange. It was seeing other people who were navigating these times with grace and a sense of humor, in a sense that our personal world is not coming apart. That mess out there is pulling apart, and good time. It's about time. And it's pulling apart. Again, I see a lot of scabs and warts and tumors. I mean, a lot of that stuff is being removed.
There's one or two boils. I'm always interested in the boil thing. Because when you I've had a couple of boils, not for a long time, but I had a couple of boils, and I was like, how's bowels? They're so close to, you correlate your medical health, etc., with what's going on in your life, etc. A boil is so perfect in describing to you that you're releasing something very toxic, and it might be physically, mentally, emotionally. But it's a boil is so representative. This is far better out than in, and it's a beautiful thing. Even though it's an ugly looking, ugly looking bit of flesh, it's like a boil is such a beautiful thing. Because that's how the body releases through a boil, and they're not pleasant.
I mean, I see the globalists. The real issue here. I see them coming down. I mean, there's fracturing. I see it being taken apart, and of course, certain people who we might identify as being a very big part of that dismantling could be very controversial. So maybe I'll just leave it without identifying who I think some really strong actors on the world stage are.
In the last video, video 3, I put it to you that the names, or felt that the names were coming out of these controllers, the ones above the George Soros, etc. And within 2 or 3 days, I know on the above top secret White House Q forum, these names are coming out. I was like, oh my gosh. And the names that I'd never heard of, 1 or 2 people had, but usually it was just, oh, I only know it in passing. But there's a bit of a like, they seem to be, for whatever reason, above the George Soros and that. So I think it's already starting to happen. There's at least 2 names that came out that were like, never heard of them before, but they're massive players. Why haven't I heard of them? And there was also, plus there was a billionaire in America that I'd never ever heard of that started to play ball. So it might not be that their names are coming out, it's that they're going to have to step out. You know, when everything's going wrong and you're the coach of the team and you want to jump out there because you've got 30 years experience, the body doesn't work anymore, but you want to jump out because you know what to do, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like they're failing, they're not getting the ball in the hoop, or they're not getting the touchdown or whatever. Well, I think that's what's happening. Their names are not so much coming out, they're having to come out to try and right the ship the way they believe it should be. But it was beautiful to see it starting to happen already, and that it opens up, and it means that there's a few of them throwing each other under the bus. It's like there's a few of them that are playing a game. They've already gone to the other side, but they're carrying on the game as if they're on the bad side still. Only my opinion. Cranky old man on the forum is very much in that line. He says, no. He says they're not even in control of their Twitter feeds now, because what the tweeting is actually obviously not going to be good for them. So why are they tweeting that? So they're not even some of them aren't even in control of their Twitter feeds and information data anymore that they're giving out. In other words, they've probably gone through maybe a secret crimes tribunal or something like that already. You know, there's certainly a lot going on behind the scenes that we won't hear about for many years to come. And I'm pretty sure Bill Ballard is of the same, has been saying that as well. And he's one of the ones that jumped on the Q wagon. Initially, he got what a lot of crap, and then he watched, felt into it, and went, oh no, this is it. This is what he had also been waiting for. And I said to myself, this is, you feel it, you know it. And you know there's disinformation going out, because if you gave the true information, you're screwed. So you give disinformation. So then only the ones that have got the passion and the heart and the feel keep going. But we know that there's a lot of people, even here, will follow where we're pointing a wee bit, or they'll follow where we're feeling a wee bit, or where our minds are touching upon. So we know that we have a sway, just like they used to. The many are now swaying.
Well, its beauty is not only do we see that, which is kind of like almost like a power transfer, but we also, because they're feeling threatened and they're used to feeling very secure. And when you're secure, you can think clearly. So now they're experiencing a little bit like the peons have, of a sense of insecurity, the fact that it kind of adrenalizes you and you make poor decisions in that state. So to me, they're starting to experience what it's like to be insecure, and the bad decisions that often are made when one does not feel secure.
That not feeling secure, that vulnerability, and something I touched upon earlier as well before we started recording, is the reset narrative. Now, I find it hard to move into the reset narrative, because most of us that have done a bit of research understand there's been 4 or 5 civilizations before us with high technology. But the reset narrative is giving us this thing. Actually, over the last 1,000 years, there may have been 4 or 5 resets, which gives you, I think I used the word, petri dish feeling. And it's like, and that's hard to talk about. For me, it's hard to talk about because I want to be positive. I want to keep the positive narrative moving. I don't want to go like, oh, in 1812, looks like most of history was bullshit. And they've closed this off and done this, suppressed that, put a new narrative in here. In that country, it took 3 years. In that country, it took 4 years. In that country, all the children seem to be moved out to another country. You know, all these things like that. I don't want to really get into the negative side of, wow, being a petri dish.
Mm-hmm.
But it's there, and it needs to be explored. So these are the boils that are coming up, in a way, I suppose. That's another way of looking at it, because it's pretty ugly. And do we know, is there enough research done already to say that, you know, there is, for me, through my research, to know that there's been resets. It's pretty obvious. There's been 4 or 5 civilizations of at least a couple of them with very high technology. You know, it's pretty hard to deny in this age. But the reset thing is like that boil. You know, what does it mean? I don't want to talk about it in a way because I want to be positive and I want to be up, you know, but I also want to be real and go, well, that's annoying me. I've got a little boil just there, over here, on my shoulder. You know, it's sitting there. And when you explore it and when you point people in a direction and go, you know about the resets, you know, what are the mud floods about? You know, what are the old paintings depicting? Now, some of those old books that Martin Letty from the Flat Earth
British, yeah.
And before anybody goes, oh, Flat Earth, it's like I'm a roundie, and all these Flat Earth people, they're so open-minded that they're taking in all these truths, whether Flat Earth's true or not, and they're researching and they're finding stuff and they're giving it out. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, please, you know, because some of the information that the Flat Earthers have brought out is truly remarkable, in my opinion.
Well, to me, they're bringing out important things that have happened on the Earth to humans. And for me, then the shape is not important to me. I don't care. To me, the shape conversation, it doesn't even need to be had. We're in a realm. We're here. Whatever Earth is, whatever she is, whatever this dreaming is, it is what it is. The thing is, we have a problem in the dreaming. And that's what's, you know, the resets and all the fuckery and stuff like that, that's being identified. To me, that, you know, that's, and so the fact that we have a problem, we Earthlings have a problem. So to me, what the flat Earth people have largely been doing is like looking at this problem from, you know, this bigger, more historical kind of perspective, so that we humans all have the same problem. The shape of the Earth doesn't matter. The same problem exists on a flat or a round Earth. The problems are the same. So now the shape becomes inconsequential for somebody bringing forward that info. I don't care that that person thinks the Earth is flat. It doesn't even matter. I know what I kind of seem to pick up, but it doesn't matter the shape for me. I'm not looking to leave the planet. I'm not looking to do anything where the shape matters. I'm in the noosphere. I'm in the dreaming, and there are nightmares in the dreaming. And so for me, what people like Martin Leakey are doing is showing us the kind of historical legacy of the nightmare, or at least the more recent part of it. I mean, there's an ancient inception point, but we're here now. This is where our power is. Our power is from now and then into the future. You know, and so the whole thing is use that past, you know, to maybe understand what got us here. And now, how do we make the future look different than that shitty past?
Yeah. I for myself, I sit there and go, well, this galaxy, whatever shape that galaxy is, you know, crikey, you're really getting dimensional. Just, you know, what's the shape of a galaxy?
Well, what's the visible shape and what's its full energy shape? Because the visible shape might be that what looks like a disc with that little, you know, with the galactic center in the middle, you know, the consciousness, where at a picture at an infrared and other spectrum level, we might see a ball.
Exactly. So that galaxy is just like a petri dish, is it not?
Well, at one level, we look at it at one spectrum, it's flat. If you include all the spectrum, suddenly that's kind of like the accretion disk. It's the place that has like the material in it, but actually it's part of what would be the hourglass with the torus wrapped around it, which roughly composes a circle.
Exactly.
Or a globe.
If we have now, but how do you, if the galaxy is a circle, is a globe, is round, how do we connect up to the other billions of galaxies? Do you know what I mean? There's going to be spaces or not.
No.
So I'm saying that way because in those spaces has to be a connection.
Oh yeah.
Each galaxy is going to connect to the other galaxy. It's not going to be a full-blown connection point. You're going to have points like the galactic core. We would probably look at it that way as a galactic core, where I believe the data streams come through there, the templates come through there for the petri dish here, if you want to see it that way. And we're only the solar system, so we're only a mini petri dish. I'm just putting it in another context, I suppose.
But we're the most important petri dish. Earth is the most important petri dish because of who and what the Earth is. This is a unique petri dish in the galaxy. And of course, the galaxies, they're sitting in a medium, and basically they can talk to each other just like if we, in real life, the air would be what transmit our sound from my mouth to your ear. Well, there's the interstellar medium. They're kind of like the prime matter, the main ether, and again, it's like almost like its own ocean, and the galaxies are suspended or in that medium. And within that medium, that medium is how all the information transmits. Just like in a real, you might shout to somebody, "Hey!" But it's the air that is the medium for the sound you produce to get to the other person's ear.
The evolutional process I feel we're going through is there's always been a quarantine to whatever degree and however around the earth because of the negativity of the mindset. Is a disease upon itself. So if it goes out,
I consider that to be backwards.
Explain.
Because we're the special petri dish. We're kind of quarantined from as much outside interference as possible. There's envy in our galaxy because of who we are. So that's why sometimes when we get visited, they gaslight us. Because they're envious. And it's when you have to, the galactic history helps put everything into perspective, and knowing what the Earth species is. That in many ways there were other humanoid species throughout the galaxy, but they were from other emanations. And that when Gaia Sophia turned into the Earth here and then became habitable, there was a new stream of anthropos, or beings that look like us, with an upgrade in it. Because especially from her new vantage point of having gone into the Canoma, she had like kind of new wisdom, so to speak. So that new wisdom was going to find its way into a new version of the many other human species throughout the galaxy. So we're the latest iteration of this form, of this humanoid form. And
it's good. I'm starting to feel quite special.
We are. And that's why that gaslighting is like, we're the contaminant. No, we're not the contaminant. We are what's wholesome. And if there is any real quarantine, it's to keep the shitheads and the gaslighters and the envious ones away. Because first of all, they might be able to give us technology, but they can't bring us the wisdom that is what we're Homo sapiens sapiens, twice wise. And that's who we are. They're Homo sapiens. We're Homo sapiens sapiens.
This is quite, at this moment now, this is quite beautiful to me, because last week we touched upon that divine dichotomy a wee bit, where the earth was built in 7 days. The earth was also built at the same time 7 years. It's exactly the same. It doesn't matter. It's actually both true, which is a dimensional think in itself, or a dimensional feel in itself. So what we're just speaking about there, I still believe that part of the process was having a quarantine, maybe both ways. But I just sort of point that was a nice divine dichotomy, because I agree with everything you said, and I hold my belief as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like what you said. It's very hard, because once upon a time, and I believe you were probably the same, when you heard somebody say something against your grain or against your belief, you automatically, your brain or your brain goes into like that, So it's beautiful for us to sit there and go, okay, explain that. I can see myself there going, come on, I'm watching my face, explain that. And it's like, and and I give my focus and I put it alongside. So that's, this is dimensional something that we're doing.
We can hold concepts in parallel. Because to me, it's like you could just hold them there, and if they haven't integrated yet, but you have a feeling this is something. In other words, I'm not going to put this in the closet. I'm going to keep it on a shelf that I can see it.
Yes. Yeah. Like I've grabbed it already and go, yeah, I've got that alongside that. I'm going to marry those two together in my thought patterns over the next few days because it's a new concept. But it's already married. It's already sitting beside and somewhat intertwined already within that. It's pretty simple. From when I first watched My Ego, and I read Conversations of God, book 1, Neil Donald Welsh. And I remember I was a bar manager at the time, and after hours drinks, I was sitting there, it must have been about 5 a.m, something like that. And I watched myself hear a story, and I had a better story, and I was about to go over it and tell my story because it was a better story. And because I now knew, I got that far and carried on listening. And just this week, there was a beautiful little saying. It was on Facebook. It was very simple. Everything you say, you already know. If you listen, you'll acquire something new. And I loved it. It was very, very simple, and it's an automatic share. It's so, we might know it, but it's so relevant because quite often I'll blah 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 blah, and just in general, maybe at work or in wherever, and it's like I need to sit back and listen and hear a different viewpoint, especially the younger ones. I always bring it back because they're the future happening now, and I need to listen. I need to listen sometimes. I got my old head on and I'm trying to help and I'm blah blahing. That's how I mean by blah blah. And whereas actually sipping my coffee and listening sometimes is a far better option. It's me learning as I get older. I think you're getting into your mid-50s. You become wiser and you become more intelligent. You're acquiring more data. And you do get those aspects at times of that, not know-it-all, but you know so much and you're living by that, and everything's going like being in the eye of when you're in the eye of the storm, you're not going to listen so much to people that are in the storm. You know what I mean? Because they might not be making the greatest choices, or they'll be beside you or close by. So, but sometimes those people in the storm are telling you, how do I get out? Or why do I need to get out? It's actually quite comfortable in here, having the crap happening every day, or whatever, So you've got to keep that communication open, and to shut up sometimes.
Yeah, I feel that we really are experiencing our wisdom when we don't need to demonstrate to other people because we know it. So there's no need for affirmation from other people that we're wise.
Role modeling.
And so, and that makes one a better, that helps listening, because even though you might be able to share on every sentence, first of all, you want to hear everything that's being said. And then also the thing is this the time for me to even speak? There's this, the whole reason to speak is to me to put out something that might not be of utility, or, give somebody something to go with.
Well, there's nothing like putting out clues. Look what Q does. He puts out some strange looking lines of information that it's like, the autists are brilliant, and they dive in there and they look at it from angles. I enjoy numbers. So I'm looking at and I'm listening and I'm watching them work in real time. Going, wow, I never would have gone down that avenue. But there's so many of them. They're all going down different avenues. When there's a false flag happen, they are so quick now. They are picking up all the data streams and all the areas of all the information that's been put out and the information that hasn't been put out by the words. And they're just so fast.
Yeah.
And they get that onto the platforms, and the 4 a.m. narrative is screwed already. for most, you know, for a lot of them. It's like, it's so quick, so fast. And it's those, if you gave somebody, this is what you need to do, wake up and do the Wim Hof, do this, do that, there's your day. It's like, no, why not put it into a form of like, what can you do? Because you don't know, I don't know. What can you do if you change your lifestyle and bring it in this Qigong practice or the Reiki practice every day? Get into your body connecting with this practice, whatever it might be, connecting with Sophia, meditations, online stuff, whatever, webinars, whatever it might be. Where can you go with this? What's, you know, put it in a Q type thing of what can you do? It is a mystery. Life's a big fucking mystery. Have fun with it. And that, you know, and I thank you again, because I don't know how many times over the last 4 or 5 days I've gone, my story, the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard the my story. I heard her story, his story, but the mystery, the my story. Oh my gosh, I keep bringing it back to myself, because I'm sitting there, I've got stuff going on in my world, as you know, and all of a sudden I go, it's a mystery. I don't know. Why am I thinking about it? Because it's my story. It's my mystery. That blew my socks off. Thank you.
And then the other thing is, you know, being part of a collective. So my story, all of our mysteries are our story.
Yeah.
And to me, a lot of even the, let's call it pagan mysteries. Okay. That's the old history. It's not, they weren't written as mysteries. They were written as the story that as it was happening. And then,
Yes.
but then history comes in and erases, you know, the oral tradition and any of the connective tissue, puts in suppositions, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly it's a mystery.
That has another meaning as well, because when you have the parables, you know, whether you're into the crying channeling material or the Bible, Jesus, whatever, when the parables are said, you will understand it and get it from there. Sometimes you'll understand it from there, and all of a sudden you'll go, because you understand the level underneath.
Mm-hmm.
You get it, or you would have got it to start off with when you first heard the parable. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of these Zen masters, the parable, it's about the parable. The story has got so many underneath.
Yeah, the koans.
And
the koans are koan. Koan is what the Zen
okay.
says.
Yeah. So, you know, I tell a lot of stories. I enjoy telling stories. It's just me, you know. I like to go into stories. Not always about my past or somebody else's past, but it's nice to tell stories, because the stories always get across, and they can be your seeds that you're planting with people.
We're
So they might.
storytelling people. And that's why the news works so well, because they're telling people a story. Whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. People want a story. Give me a story. Tell me a story. And especially
And
you work with young ones, and it's very good.
it's trying to make, or people are trying to make sense, you know. Now, I'm looking forward to seeing where we are in 6 months, because there'll be a lot of people drawn to what we're doing and want to emulate what we're doing, because what we're actually doing is not really done so much out there. There's a lot of like Joe Rogan's magnificent. I just watched some of his comedy, some old clips. Oh, bloody brilliant. And he's getting point across, so he's telling a story. But you see him work with a guest. When he's got a guest on, he is the best in the world to get everything out of that guest. He might ply them with alcohol and drugs sometimes, but that helps sometimes for their story to come out. But by crikey, I just love listening to even some of his boring guests, what I would consider boring, other people may not, because it's so fascinating. You know, because often there's an ego thing happening, even with Joe, that he doesn't see himself, because he's trying to be the best he can. But and you watch it going backwards and forwards, it's beautiful, you know. And yet I learned something. I suppose that's what I enjoy learning. So I have to go a pee break.
Okay, I'll you know something. I'll join you.
I'm getting a bit anxious because I need to
I
get
think
up.
we have a pause.
I'll leave you with the ad.
We're going to pause.
Okay.
So we're back, and drinking lots of water is very good for you. But it's sometimes can be inconvenient when you're supposed to sit still, but that isn't healthy. So here's to health.
I have a wee bit of mint.
Nice.
Always go out and put mint in the water.
I'll be able to do that in a couple of months.
Mm.
I have a peppermint right outside my house that I planted.
Oh, nice. Do you not put some leaves away for the winter?
I forgot.
Oh.
I'm,
Ours has been all year round the last couple of years. So weather's a bit better at the moment in New Zealand or South Island.
well, I have some kale that once it gets warmer will start growing, and it'll be its third year growing. They're actually surviving the winter here. Doesn't give me much in the way of leaves, and then sometimes we'll get a freeze and they'll shrink down, but they stay alive. And during any warm spell, I've actually been able to pick a few fresh leaves off.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Do you get wee babies coming off them, seeding from it?
Well, I'm not sure whether it's propagating along the root system. I think there has been some propagation.
Yeah, I've had a few come up. I've done the same. I've got kale on the street side, and it's going into its third year as well. I'm getting wee ones every so often. I didn't think it would come through the root system though. I thought it was the seeds.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I haven't seen any sign of propagation, but it looks like there's, because I've planted two. I planted a green kale and a purple kale. The green kale has proved to be hardier because that's the one that seems to have been surviving the winter. It looks like I have one purple kale that survived. But
purple is what two colors make purple? Red and blue?
Yeah.
Mm. I was watching a documentary recently on the symbolism of purple and its ancient roots coming down to a sea snail.
The Murex. The Murex sea snail.
That's right, yeah. And the fascination around that, like if you wanted to have purple, that was the best purple to get, or the best linen, or to get was from this place. Denoted royalty in its time.
Mm-hmm. They ordered it for themselves, and okay, I mean, again.
Yeah. Oh yes, last week. Just catching up. Another thing from last week. When we had the ads last week that were whatever they were, but before one of them, you said I've got to go for a wee break, and you explain what the Waitaha is, please, Vernon. People may not know. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember asking you to explain Waitaha.
Yeah. So you probably missed what was said, but as I was talking on reflection, the next day I realised that there'd been a feeling come through me, like spirit coming through me and talking. So I went back over it and got a nice wee surprise. It was like I talked. You wouldn't have heard it. So I talked about it when some people call it the event, but when the percentages move to a point of exponential, there's no other branches, no other potentials except for the greatest potential. So when that event hits, or that time hits, or when that energy goes into co-creation with humanity and Gaia, the call will go out with the Waitaha. But it's been expected for many, it's been spoken of for many decades or centuries even, that the call will go out at the right time. Mm-hmm. So I was listening to myself, and I see myself at a certain point sort of flick into I hesitate to say a channeled place or a channeling place, but definitely a spirit coming through me place. And then I realized that there was a wee bit of a call going out from myself just talking about it, as in preempting spherically, if you want, creating. So it's a dodgy place for me to feel into at the moment, but I thought I'd bring it up just to maybe you can go back to the last vid, and I think it's 3/4 of the way through, just to see what you think. I can only see it from my own perspective.
Well, I wrote a song in 1988 called Rock and Roll Love. And it's funny when you just mentioned there's a line, I'm only going to say that one line. It's, let's call the tribes together, see each other and say hello.
Mm.
And I think that's it. And then it kind of ends with silk or leather, neither's better. It's rock and roll time. Let's raise hell. But by raising hell was like kind of exposing it and cleansing it.
Mm. Well, certainly there.
It was today. I have meetings on Wednesdays and Thursdays with the Global Mission Peace Group, and today was particularly wonderful because um, people were sharing like I would, their intuitions, it wasn't so much dreams as it was, again, the open eye trance state stuff that happened. I mean, most of my information comes to me with my eyes wide open. I suddenly a piece of information or I'm thinking and all of a sudden, boom, I'm on a journey or I'm in the middle of a download, one or the other. Sometimes a little bit of both. Sometimes it's like a journey of collection, so it's not so much a download as a collection. You come back with a sack. And so we were having that beauty of just like when you talked about, when you mentioned God stepping on your back and I had my connection, we were doing this and it was women basically and myself and one other guy who also he lives in a tent in Australia. So, he's out there with nature and he was the only other male who was able to join the conversation. But it was just so interesting how as we put out these pieces, other people said things so if each one of us came with one piece and there were 4 different pieces, almost everybody found at least one other piece to hook into. So everybody came with one piece and left with 2.
Hmm. Well, I've always seen for myself that my shamanic side or mystic side is definitely laced with madness. I don't think there's too much choice when you're in this world, especially the further back in time we go. And nowadays, it's not madness. It's being recognised as creating reality, or just your reality not matching with people who have a different or older reality. But definitely, when they say that you'll only know yourself by going out of your mind, when these collective minds are coming together, as you're saying with the gentlemen and the other ladies, you have when 2 or more are gathered in thy name or my name, in other words, God or above and below, that's when the magic happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that's what we're trying to produce here as well. Trying to be mystics. Can we change that? Trying to be interesting.
Sure, you can pick any title. You hadn't suggested one for me, so it was kind of left to me.
World peace and cleaning up. Something. Yeah. We could always go World War III cleanup or world peace. I don't know. I think it's probably good just leaving it the way it is.
Yeah, that's why I gave it its title, because again, to try and summarize, to try and title what we're doing, I just thought that was actually probably the most honest and succinct title I could come up with.
Yeah.
Because once again, whether or not we're interesting is in the eye of the beholder. So we're trying to be interesting. That's the intention. I shouldn't say trying is a strange word. It's what our intention is. But again, I try to find words that kind of just everybody can kind of go with a little bit. That's one of the reasons I stopped making videos. I don't even know how to talk to people anymore. I know how to talk to you. I know how to talk to people I know, and then but I don't know how to talk to. I don't know where people are at. I don't know whether they just came from a Corey Good video or something. I mean, what am I, So, I don't. This is the only kind of format I can do now. Talking to somebody that is experiencing this transition time from kind of like a mystical point of view. To me, something that is anybody can do. I mean, unless the hybridization effect is some people greater than others and they don't have the capacity, I don't know. You know, you know, there was, you know, I don't want to get into that stuff. I mean, really, again, I get it. If it was you and me, if we weren't recording, I would go. I mean, I'm very aware of when I have an audience. I'm a performer. So even though I know I'm just in my room alone, speaking to you in a room alone, it's just the two of us. It's going to go out to whoever it goes out to, and they're always there in my mind. And like just like you know, as an entertainer, if you know, I'd like to give them my original material, but if you know, if they're like, you know, for original, I play somebody else's song, and they're like, oh yeah, well, okay, here we go. I guess they want to, you know, that's what they want. And then it's my decision whether I want to carry on.
I suppose the difference for me is there'd be one or two people at work or more, or if something's picked up, they could spread it right through work. And I put our vids on Facebook, so my family watches it.
Oh.
Most of them know I'm a wee bit different, so and I doubt whether mum or dad will watch it. Mum might watch the first couple of minutes, and that's probably be it. And I'm not too worried. I'm pretty much myself nowadays, and the allowance of alternative views into the mainstream, like our thought forms, is becoming to a large degree allowed again. Allowed again, I mean, like I think once upon a time you could speak freely without worrying about people trying to cut you down or bash you up with their thought patterns. So I'm pretty, you know, I'm aware that I'm also a leading edge in the communities that I'm in and family. So, you know, I don't want to say anything detrimental or, you know, have people believing they're walking on water with what I say or whatever. At the same token, everybody's responsible. But I'm aware that I'm pushing, in a way, my narrative. And I'm okay with that, even though it could come back and get a tap on the shoulder. I'm okay with that.
Again, I kind of come back to the, you know, inside, you're either in the eye, you know, if you're in the eye of the hurricane, you don't have to shout. Life is pretty normal. And I just don't know how people in the eye of the hurricane can even be heard by those in the hurricane.
True.
It's not for lack of compassion, but there's also the utility. Like, am I just indulging in vanity, thinking that my voice will even be heard?
You have to remember that all of those people in the storm, in the hurricane, most of them, if not all of them, knew that the hurricane was coming. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We are all warned, as you know, at some stage we're going to know that the narrative we've been brought up and nurtured with, inside we know that it's false, and at some stage things will start to feel good as we're in harmony with ourselves and our environment, etc. But we're not brought up that way, most of us. There's more and more children being brought up that way, but otherwise most of the people knew the storm was coming. Now, before they come into Earth or onto Earth,
mm-hmm.
the potentials were there that we're going through what we're going through at the moment, and that there would be a storm. And eventually you'll be in the eye of the storm. If not in this lifetime, the next or the next. It's a long storm. It's a beautiful storm. And we come down here for the storm. So the people in the storm are no different than you and me, except for that. Not that, but that.
I'm not saying that there's any difference other than the experience of the now.
Yeah. The ones in the storm will be in the eye, in the now, the eye point, the now point, 0 point.
You know, it's kind of like if you're still searching for what your truth is, the search is in the storm.
Yes.
The eye is for when you have gotten enough gnosis to be able to operate in real time. You don't have to know everything. You need to know what you're doing now, what you might do now. I mean, there's not a whole lot to have to hold on to, especially since it's coming from the creator herself. So there's this exquisite grace place for us to be within the that stream of consciousness. And so I mean, really, those who are still going to every live stream hoping they're going to get the information, they're in the storm.
At least they know they're in the storm.
Do they?
We're,
No, I don't know that.
if remember, we've been brought up to go out there, usually out there. We're brought up this way. The government tells us, teachers tell us, our parents tell us, as it is changing these days. And we're told to go out there to find out what the truth and who you are and what your mind is. Then all of a sudden, you only start moving towards the eye of the storm when you realize that you have to know your own mind, know thyself. You have to know your own mind to be in the eye of the storm.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the narrative, which is not yours, will keep you in the storm. So it's all about knowing your own mind, and it'll happen eventually. We're at a point now where only good will prevail. It doesn't matter whether you're in the storm or in the eye of the storm, only good will prevail. That's where we're at. There's still going to be the pain and the suffering. It's not like you have to go through that in the eye of the storm or in the storm. It's all just happening now for one purpose. We've reached a point, we're moving towards it. Everybody is in the eye of the storm, it just hasn't happened yet.
And I can feel them. That's why, like when I have these feelings, I look for, if it's not the earth releasing energy, then I know it's noospherically. So like, when I had a day or two ago and it kind of tapered off halfway through yesterday, I had to take some skull cap, which is a nervine, just to kind of, because I was rattled. And that's taking a little empathy, the hourly, whatever, you tap into how is everybody doing out there. And then you get like, so sometimes the reading is one, sometimes it's, not so bad, but the reading I got the other day with no earthquakes told me, man, there is some major fault line slippage, releasing of energy happening right now.
I would put forward to you that next time we take a pause or a break, that one of us stays and continues talking. Because I felt like when we had the pause, we went away and did our thing, and we come back, that it's only the last few minutes that we've got back to where we were beforehand.
Yeah, we had a reset.
We had a reset. Oh, I love you. Okay. Yeah. I've got the young one home from school very shortly. I'm just aware of that as well. So at some stage, the room might become quite busy, and
you might have to yield your computer.
That too. Not my computer. To those that don't know, it was just a matter of my nice new computer would not function whatever I did on the Zoom with Modi, and yet I went to the older partner's computer, and voila, no problems at all.
What's been beautiful here has been a couple of times, like you froze for a second, but when it picked up right from where in other words, nothing was lost. It kind of stitched itself together.
Yeah.
There's a gap, but there's no missing words. There's just a pause between the words.
Yeah. Oh yes, what a frustrating time those first two videos were. Oh, but we're in a good place now. Is there anything else you feel into?
I think a part of where I think what I feel slippage is because I live in America. And the president here has given a few for those who were open to listening to the man, I thought like pretty amazing speeches. He first of all gave a 43-minute speech about fixing the water problem for California farmers in the San Joaquin Valley. And all it was, the whole fix was about adjusting a few regulations and opening a few locks from dams. This was a pure the water shortage was a bureaucratic water shortage.
Okay.
And so he waited in there and did, and I mean, the farmers of the San Joaquin Valley in California, which is really rich soil, they've been struggling. And now all of a sudden, boom, they're back in business. And you know, so like, in other words, like, let's say the political divide in America between, you know, the Republicans and the Democrats, something I don't participate in, but it's there. It's there. There has been some shifting in how people identify over the course of the past couple of weeks. I mean, I've been listening to people who say I was this way, now I'm this way. I mean, there is some major tectonic consciousness shifting going on in America. And it's also around the world, but America, I mean, there's a really dynamic president here. I mean, anybody can say, what do they want about President Trump? He's dynamic. I mean, where he moves, other things move.
There was a Democrat, that pretty open-minded one, that went to Trump's last rally and came out and just said, "We're screwed." Now, when she got to see it for herself, I think there was a veteran or something was carried. He's 100 years old or something, was carried down by two, probably Vietnam veterans, I don't know, but other veterans, probably Desert Storm or something, I don't know. And it was like, wow, you know, you just couldn't hold the tears back. I'm not an American. It's just feelings and emotions that you're seeing, and they're real. You know, it's beautiful. And we've got elections here in New Zealand in this year, and it's already happening here. And I'm just sitting there repeatedly, in a nice way, when I feel it's the same pair of trousers, two different legs, same pair of trousers, two different legs. Whereas in America, that's changed. It had to start in America. I always believed, when I first heard that USA is in the middle of Jerusalem, the word, and that things would start in the USA, just like the light hits New Zealand first. So there's many things that'll happen here first to reverberate around the world on certain facets. In America, be certain things that happen there first. And Trump's been that aspect one way or another. So when we have our elections here, we've got National and Labour. Like Labour, you know, I was saying to everybody, Jacinda Ardern, you know, she's going to have a baby and everything else, and she gets elected. She come out of nowhere, bullshit. She was pre-organised years beforehand. She left university here, went straight to a political party and worked for them in England. You know, you got the Five Eyes connection, of course, and everything else, and the elitist, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and then she comes back, and then boom, and all of a sudden we're meant to believe that she's come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden she's the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And it's like, now they can see all the backlash coming at her, and you can read it. And Q definitely helped me with this, but you can read it coming. And all of a sudden they got the other person, a fella called Bridges, believe it or not, Simon Bridges. But I watched him when he first started. He was working for the tobacco lobby in New Zealand. Politically, that's how he started his career. So he was obviously going to get pushed through those channels, just like Jacinda Ardern, for when the public's had enough of her, to put him in place. You know, it's just so orchestrated. And if you're in the Five Eyes, terribly obvious. So thankfully, there is big changes happening, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here, because people are going to start clicking. People are going to start realizing that, you know, so many people absolutely adore Jacinda, you know, and she's got a baby, and da-da-da-da-da, you know, and it's like, but it's coming apart. Her narrative is coming apart. You know, you can't hold, you know, it's disharmonic, the system, so it's going to happen anyway. But he's just like the previous Prime Minister. He's totally got the corrupt lines going through him already before he even started. You can see it. So we're faced with this. So you just keep telling people, two trouser legs, same pair of trousers. And you just all you can do is just keep repeating it, you know. And people will have to go, just like in America, you got the red, blue, Dem, Republic. It's changing there as well. But it's changing by somebody getting in and taking the Republican ticket. He's no He's no saint, but the people that put him in there, they're the ones that, in my belief, were the former part of the former controllers that flipped.
Mm-hmm.
I take it back to the Ringing Cedars books again, the ones at the top, the great priests that reincarnate consciously, lifetime after lifetime. They finally got to a point where they flipped because they could see what was happening past 2012. They flipped, but all the wheels are still going on underneath that they have to work with, because those wheels have been going for generations within those families.
Yeah.
And they ain't going to stop because life's pretty cool for them. Not really, but it is. You know what I mean? It's what they know. So those controllers that flipped are the ones, I believe, that put Trump into power. Trump is a puppet, but he's a bloody good puppet. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's not the only one. You know, Putin's in there. You know, they know what in the Bolshevik Revolution, that was the American money that went over there. And tens of millions over two generations got putrid stuff, you know, murdered. You know, when I found out that they put a law decree out that beautiful children must be done away with, and over 10 million children in Russia were killed because they were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is factual, and it's in the archives. You can even with the algorithms, you can access that information, because Russia put a 4-hour video out on it themselves. You know, a decade ago, it got put out. This is what actually happened. Here's the documentation. But that was put about by the American, and there's no borders with these people. So they're not American. They're humans that are corrupted, holding power,
mm-hmm.
controllers, whatever you want to go, that put in that Bolshevik revolution. You know, they got arrested in Canada. Was it Trotsky, whatever? You know, the two main Russians got arrested in Canada. So there was another group trying to stop it happening.
Mm-hmm. Just
like Trump and the ones that did that, you know, their children of those families are the ones that got Trump into power. You know, so the Bolshevik, you know, you're going back over 100 years. So you're going through that spiral. It's not a circle, it's a spiral.
Mm-hmm.
There we go to 2012. You know, you go back to, when was the Bolshevik Revolution? Can you remember?
Was it 1917, I think?
No, not the First World War. Just prior.
No, I think the Bolshevik Revolution was like towards the end of the First World War. I think it was 1917 was the Bolshevik Revolution.
Oh gosh, I got to get the old thinking cap on.
I'm gonna well, while you're talking, I'm gonna find out right quick now.
Okie dokie. So for either timeline, what happened there, the spiral happens again, instead of the Bolshevik Revolution happening basically again in America, because remember, these weren't Americans that put the Bolshevik Revolution into place. These people were all over the globe, the controllers.
Well, it's called the Russian Revolution, but it's 1917.
Okay, I stand corrected. And so that's what's happening again. You know, I really, because the spiral is a dimensional thing. It's dimensional think,
mm-hmm.
dimensional feel. You got to have the feel and the think.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have that feel and think together.
Well, the energy, even the energy of what we're talking about, like the storm, you know, with the calm center, it's still, even at the center is where that spiral starts.
Well, you have to have the storm for change. The catalyst for change is the storm.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the eye, that's all good. You're bringing it in. But the eye is a stage, because the storm will pass over the eye sooner or later.
But
it's where you're at.
But the eye is the eye. In other words, the eye is its own. It's the coherence of the storm. The eye is where the coherence is, and funny in that the coherence, there's a spiraling, but it's more gentle, but it's, you know, good.
We still have our feet on the ground. So fourth, fifth, sixth dimensionally, yes, the eye of the storm, but our feet are on Earth's ground at the same time. Mm-hmm. So even though it's we're not talking a physical storm, there is a physical storm involved third dimensionally with our feet on the ground. It's just that we're not involved in it, but the storm will still pass over us. Mm-hmm. divine dichotomy. All good.
Okay.
Mm.
Maybe we're done. Probably good timing because you know you're gonna have the son, you know, young one coming home.
Mm. Thank you for going along with the impromptu happening and being yourself.
Yeah, it's being in the moment.
Mm.
Yeah, my pleasure. Let's hope we were interesting. I think we were.
We might get a few more comments this week.
Well, I expect. I mean, look, some of the topics we had about political stuff. There's going to have to be a thumbs down from that. That's going to have to trigger somebody.
All good with that.
But maybe it won't. Maybe the contact. Maybe you know, two mystics talking sounds so boring that you know people with open minds will be the ones listening.
That's what we wish. Well, both, but that's what we wish for.
Okay.
Blessings, Marty.
Thank you, Vern, and thank you
And
for anybody who finds these two mystics interesting. And the next time we start, do you want to end with a little quick song?
Okay. Want me to do it? A clearing song? Oh, do the okay. Oh, I can feel tears coming. Purushottama Paramatma Shri Bhagavate Namaha Shri Bhagavati Samhita
Thank you, Vern, and that will be how we leave.
Hello.